The video game industry is no stranger to high-risk investments, where ambitious projects are often backed by massive budgets in the hopes of delivering groundbreaking experiences. However, not every game lives up to the hype. In fact, some of the most expensive video games ever created ended up as massive commercial failures, leaving studios in financial ruin and players disappointed. From years of development and millions in funding to being completely overshadowed by other titles or failing to meet player expectations, these games serve as cautionary tales of what can go wrong when big bets don't pay off. Here are the 10 most expensive video game failures of all time. So, the 10th most expensive video game failure of all time is Daikatana. Eidos Interactive's 2000 FPS Daikatana faced numerous setbacks, including staff turnover, engine changes, and production delays, which ballooned its budget to between $30 million and $44 million. By its release, the game felt outdated compared to more refined competitors and sold just over 40,000 copies, resulting in a major financial loss. The disappointment was amplified by the involvement of renowned FPS designer John Romero, known for co-creating classics like Quake and Duke Nukem. And on number 9, we have This Is Vegas. Cancelling a video game before its completion is one of the fastest ways to lose a fortune, as it eliminates any chance of recovering costs through sales. A notable example is This Is Vegas, an ambitious open-world action game by Midway and Surreal Software. Despite investing between $40 to $50 million in development, the project was scrapped in 2010, largely due to Midway's bankruptcy the previous year. The game, originally planned for PC, PS3, and Xbox 360, had already released trailers and screenshots. Its cancellation left both its fate and potential success forever unknown. And the 8th most expensive video game failure of all time is Darksiders II. Darksiders is a hack-and-slash action game that puts players in the role of one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. In the first installment, you take control of war, while the sequel, Darksiders II, features his brother, Death. The choice of protagonist feels symbolic, given how the sequel was received. Despite THQ pouring nearly $50 million into its development, making it one of the priciest games of its era, Darksiders II managed to sell only about 1 million copies in its first year. As a result, it ended up being labeled one of the decade's most notable commercial flops. And the 7th most expensive video game failure of all time is Shenmue. Shenmue was a groundbreaking and ambitious title for its time, with Sega investing over $70 million into its development, an astronomical budget back then. Unfortunately, the game failed to recover those costs, performing poorly at launch. Though it's now seen as a cult classic, it wasn't until the release of its sequel that the series began to build a dedicated fan base. In the game, players step into the shoes of Ryo Hazuki, a young martial artist on a quest to avenge his father's murder at the hands of Lan Di. Despite its initial commercial failure, Shenmue helped lay the foundation for many modern gaming conventions, including realistic day and night cycles, NPCs with daily routines, quick-time events, dynamic weather systems, and more. And the 6th most expensive video game failure is Too Human. Too Human endured nearly a decade of development hell, ultimately costing between $80 to $100 million, only to be court-ordered off store shelves. Originally conceived in 1999 for the PlayStation, the game was rebuilt 3 times for the PS1, GameCube, and finally the Xbox 360. Each iteration faced delays and cancellations until Microsoft finally brought it to release. However, a lawsuit from Epic Games led to a court ruling that forced the destruction of all unsold copies. The result? Silicon Knights couldn't sell the game anymore and was left with nearly $4.5 million in legal penalties. And on number 5, we have APB, All Points Bulletin. APB All Points Bulletin is another example of an over-ambitious project that took too long to develop and cost far more than it could ever earn back. This MMO set players in the crime-ridden city of Sanparo, choosing between two factions, enforcers or criminals, in a battle for control. Announced back in 2005, the game came from the creator of Grand Theft Auto and Crackdown, which naturally generated a lot of hype. But when APB finally launched, it felt unfinished, with clunky controls and shallow gameplay that left fans disappointed. The negative reception led to its servers being shut down just a year after release, and the studio behind it ultimately filed for bankruptcy. And on number 4, we have E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. While many games have led to financial losses or studio closures, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial nearly took down the entire video game industry. Developed for the Atari 2600 as a movie tie-in, Atari paid $22 million for the rights, hoping to cash in on the film's success. However, the game was rushed through development in just 5 weeks, resulting in clunky controls and poor visuals. Of the 5 million cartridges produced, only 1.5 million were sold, and about 700,000 were quickly returned. The overwhelming backlash made E.T. a symbol of failure and a key factor in the video game crash of 1983. And the third most expensive video game failure of all time is Skull and Bones. Following the breakout success of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, fans were eager for Ubisoft to deliver a full-fledged pirate game. But when Skull and Bones finally launched nearly 12 years later, the enthusiasm had long worn off. Prolonged development meant other titles like Sea of Thieves had already claimed the pirate spotlight. Ubisoft's decision to make it a live service game, combined with the lack of on-foot exploration or combat, left fans disappointed. To make matters worse, the game was touted as a quadruple A title by Ubisoft's CEO, only to flop hard and sink into obscurity, a victim of its own hype. And the second most expensive video game failure of all time is Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League is a live-service third-person looter shooter where players take control of the infamous squad as they battle brainwashed Justice League heroes. Despite the intriguing premise, the game flopped at launch, struggled with player retention, and quickly saw heavy discounts, eventually being given away for free with little impact on its popularity. The live service model was one of the biggest turn-offs, frustrating players who expected a more focused experience. Fans were also disappointed that the game was tied to the Arkham series, with bland combat, repetitive missions, and uninspired boss fights that mostly boiled down to shooting superheroes with slightly different ammo. And the last most expensive video game failure on our list is Concord. One of the most notable commercial flops in recent memory is Concord. After spending over 8 years in development and eventually being acquired by Sony, the game was pitched as a live-service hero shooter in the vein of Overwatch or Valorant. But just 2 weeks after launch, its servers were shut down, and within a month, the studio was closed for good. The failure of Concord came down to several factors: a saturated hero shooter market, uninspired characters, poor marketing, and the decision to charge for a genre that's now dominated by free-to-play titles. Had it launched as a free-to-play game, Concord might have stood a better chance of success. So, have you played any of the games on this list? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.